morning, everybody. Welcome to the Payne Art Center, and we have a group from Reed Elementary School today to help us celebrate Arbor Day in the city of Oshkosh. So I'd like to welcome all you guys and glad you could make it down the street here to join us. We do this celebration every year. Today is going to be the 35th Arbor Day for the city of Oshkosh. So we've been in a Tree City, USA for 35 consecutive years, which is a big accomplishment. So today we're going to plant a tree. We've got a couple individuals from the City Forestry Division. We've also got representatives from Wisconsin Public Service, American Transmission Company, Representative Gordon Hintz from the State Assembly. We have the mayor is here. We also have several other council members here. Shortly, we hope to have the UW Oshkosh arrive. They will be receiving their Tree Campus USA award. We have Shirley Maddox, who is with the Urban Forestry Council, which is a state organization that works on behalf of forestry within the communities throughout the state. We have Tracy Salisbury, who is our urban forestry coordinator for the Northeastern District. So she will be here to present the awards as well. Sheila Glasky, who is our horticulturist here at the Payne. So we've worked for many years with Sheila to get this all set up, and they've been very good about allowing us to work here in this space. And also Aaron, who is the director of the Payne, is with us as well. So we appreciate his allowing us to be here too. So with that, I think we'd like to kind of get rolling here. Have any of you guys ever planted a tree? A few of you, yes, very good. So we've got Greg Kirschmeyer from Wisconsin Public Service here today, and I'd like him to say a few words. He's got some seedlings for everyone too. So before we ever plant any trees, we like to do utility locates, which is determining what's underground before we plant, so that we make sure that we don't interrupt any power or gas or anything like that. So Greg, if you could come forward and say a few words about that process. And thank you.
Sure. So I see we got some experts today that know how to plant trees, right? And the most important thing you should do before you plant a tree, right, is to call Digger's hotline and make sure that and get the area marked so you don't dig into a power line or a phone line or some other thing, right? That's a really important thing to do. And like Bill said, we've got some seedlings that we're going to give out today. We do it every year. We have some flowering crab trees, we got some dogwoods, we have some choke cherries, and we have some lilacs. And we're going to give you guys one to take home and plant. And they're not going to be very tall trees in the long run. They're going to be what we call power line friendly trees. So another thing you want to look for when you're planting a tree is look up, right? Because you don't want to plant a tree under a power line, right? Because that would it would grow up into it, and maybe public service might have to come through and prune the tree away from the power line. So be mindful of where you plant the tree as well. So whose favorite tree is a lilac? Who likes a choke cherry? All right. How about a dogwood? Anybody like a dogwood? Very good. Well, we're really excited to be here today. We're thankful for the tree line program. It's really helped our tree crews as far as being educated, as far as being professional and knowing how to prune trees. And thanks a lot for having us here.
Okay, thank you. And we'll take it to the mayor. He has to depart here shortly, so we'd like to get started with the reading of the Arbor Day proclamation. So, Mayor Cummings.
Thank you, Bill, and good morning, everyone. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in the state of Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable source for giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas Oshkosh has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for the 35th year in a row. Now, therefore, I, Steve Cummings, Mayor of the City of Oshkosh, do hereby proclaim Thursday, April 28th, 2016, as Arbor Day in the City of Oshkosh, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and support our city's urban forestry program, dated April 28, 2016. So this goes to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's official. Today is Arbor Day in the City of Oshkosh. So with that, we need to plant a tree. So brought with me today a couple members of our city forestry staff, Aaron and Steve. So we'll kind of give you a little play-by-play. Today we have a columnar European beech. Is that correct, Sheila? A columnar purple beech. So this ought to be a nice tree here for a long term. So by columnar, we mean that it stays fairly narrow in growth habits. So we're planting it fairly close to the building. So we want something that doesn't expand too much into the structure. So it should be a nice landscape feature for years to come. So as you return to this site in the future, you can always come and visit the tree that you were involved in planting. So this tree is actually a ball and burlap tree, which is, if you look at the root zone, you'll see that it's been packaged up for transport in a burlap sack. So what the guys will do is remove the remainder of the twine from the ball that holds everything together, remove the burlap, inspect the root system, and determine what height to plant that tree. We don't want to plant them too deep because that will actually eventually kill the tree. So they are very mindful of planting it at the correct elevation. So we'll show you that as we kind of get going. So if you guys want to get started and move that rascal into the hole. So Aaron and Steve are very involved with all the tree work that goes on in the city of Oshkosh. So they plant trees often. They care for all the trees that are on city property. So they do all the pruning work and planting work throughout the community. So we usually like to pull all the burlap off. If you have a potted tree, of course, remove the pots. Often there's a lot of excess soil that's located on top of the ball, so we'd like to remove some of that. This one looks like it's got a pretty good flare at the base, so we'll bring away any excess soil and determine where the main buttress root is, which is kind of the larger root that you see there. And so that's about the correct elevation that you want it. Sometimes in the nursery settings, they'll actually till a lot of soil up around the tree, and so we like to make sure that we get any excess soil from the top of the ball removed so that we don't continue to have the tree planted too deeply. So as you can see, this one doesn't have a whole lot of roots there, so this oftentimes the root balls are 300 to 400 pounds that we work with. So following the installation of the tree at the correct elevation, we'll put a lot of loose soil around it, pack it in enough so that it stays stable. And then what's the next thing you want to do after you plant a tree? Yes, sir?
Water it.
Water it, right. Every tree requires water, so it's critical to the survival of the tree to make sure that it gets adequate water. So Sheila and her staff will keep an eye on this and make sure that everything stays watered. The other thing that we often do is we'll place mulch around the tree, which is shredded wood bark, and that kind of keeps the tree moist so that when we have really hot weather, the tree roots don't dry out as rapidly. So that's something that they'll do after we all leave. So we've got it pretty well situated. As you can see, there was probably a good 6 to 8 inches of excess soil that was on top of the ball initially. So it's real good idea to make sure you get all that extra material away from the tree, because otherwise it'll send out roots higher up the trunk, which is detrimental to the survival of the tree. Does anybody have any questions about tree planting? Yes?
Isn't a lilac a flower?
Yeah, the ivory silk lilac is usually what we use. And as Mr. Kirschmeyer mentioned, that's a power line friendly tree, so they don't get very tall, but they have a really nice white flower. And we use those a lot on street plantings where we're installing trees underneath power lines, so it's a very good tree for use in that situation. Yes, sir.
Is that tree the exact same tree we're planting?
No, this is actually an oak tree. So this tree has been around for a long time. So it's a different species. So there's a lot of different species that grow in Wisconsin. So we try to obviously utilize as many of them as is practical. So, you know, that tree has probably been here for 80, 90 years. So that's a nice old growth tree. So, yes, ma'am.
Don't lilacs come in very different colors?
The shrub form of the lilac comes typically in a kind of purple color flower. So that's often like a shrub form. So what we do on the street terraces is we use a tree form, which is a single stem, and then it has kind of a conical shaped top that has a really kind of off-white color. So it's a little bit different from the lilacs that we see in other locations. So, yes?
Do you know how many trees there are in Oshkosh?
Well, there's quite a few. We've got in our city property inventory in excess of 16,000. But that doesn't count everything that's in your backyards or anything like that. So there's a lot of trees.